Let's get some emotes. Let's get really excited in the chat for Mxmtoon.
Hello.
Hi. Welcome to the stream. Thanks so much for coming on and joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah. How you doing? How's it going?
I'm as good as anybody can be 12 months into a global pandemic, but I'm fine.
Relatively speaking. Okay, good. Yeah. I'm glad to hear it. Get the ukulele out. I'm so excited to have you on the stream today. I know you're going to be performing some songs for us. We're going to be talking. And, before you get into that, I just want to talk to you a little bit. And for people who may not know you for some reason, I cannot imagine how. But for those who don't, can you talk to me a little bit about your sound? How would you describe your sound and who you are as an artist to people?
Good question. I think the way that I've described it in the past for people is kind of like rhyming diary entries. Like a lot of my writing style is not very off from like what I would just sound like if I was talking. The only thing is that I'm rhyming it occasionally and putting it over some ukulele chords. So I think it feels pretty like personal and diaristic. I don't even know if that's a word, but I think it's kind of in the same vein of that. So like some bedroom pop vibes probably.
I love that. I love it. Yeah, because a lot of your music I feel like is very introspective, and I think I was either watching a video of yours or reading an interview that you had done where you were talking about how you tried to just kind of make songs about things that are just kind of going on in your life and like things with friends or other issues like that. Where do you find most of your inspiration for the songs you write and the things that you create?
I think that a lot of the things that I choose to write about are really like kind of smaller moments in my life. Like I don't think that I choose things that are very out there. And I think that the reason I do that is because this is not to be a pity party, but I don't feel myself as like, I don't see myself as a very exciting person. Like I am just a very normie and like individual, and a lot of the things that I've experienced, although my life is like interesting to certain extents, and I think that everybody's story is different and unique, a lot of the things I think about and a lot of the things that I've gone through are really human and I think universal. And so my topics that I choose for my songs are things like, and you'll hear some of them today, like going to prom and how that can be actually like a really disappointing experience, or talking about, your friendships in your life and wanting to keep those and hold them close to your heart, or listening to music in the back of the car. I have a lot of songs about driving and listening to music, and I only know how to listen to music. I can't even drive a car. So like thinking about just like the smaller moments of life and bringing those moments into the art that I'm sharing with the world.
Well, do you think that kind of plays a part? Because I do think that making kind of relatable content, if you will, really connects with people. People connect with that, and that's what they're experiencing too. How do you think you try to use that or how do you think that you stand out from your peers in making music, just in general?
Ooh, that's a question I still ask myself a lot of times, and I think it's because I think I probably talk about the intersectionality of like my identities in a way that maybe is not as common amongst like the indie scene per se. I think like as a mixed race, like Asian American queer woman, like my identities I think definitely center really prominently in the sorts of stories that I'm telling and sort of conversations that I'm holding on my own platforms. And I think that that probably resonates really deeply with a lot of my audience. And I know that the people that are listening to me are really similar to me. They're young people of color that are navigating their identities, that are a part of the LGBTQ community, and being able to hear me tell my story, I think feels very close to home for them and the sort of things that they're going through in their own lives.
Yeah. Was that something that you kind of thought of when you were first starting out, or is that something that you've started really leaning into more as you've gone on in your career as an artist and developed yourself? You know what I mean?
I think it's always been something that's kind of been on my mind. Like growing up, I never had any forms of representation really, as somebody who was half Asian and half white, and also looking for like healthy role models of what it means to be bisexual. Like I just didn't have any of that. And I think that I've been very aware from day one when I started gaining a platform and an audience is just how important representation is as a thing. And whether that's in, spaces like YouTube or TikTok or music, I think having somebody to look to where it feels like your story is being reflected is one of the most powerful things that you can have. And so hopefully always providing a space for people to feel like there is the space for them to talk about their authentic self and their truth.
Yeah. And I definitely feel what you're saying. And I think over the years, what's really positive about social media is that I think a lot of people have gotten the opportunity to see people that look like them or be given a platform and have representation. How have you, from an artist perspective, seen things change over the course of your career over the last few years as you've been gaining traction and getting more attention? How have things changed for you?
I mean, I think for me, I never saw myself having this job in any way or shape or form. I think that was the biggest surprise and the biggest change. I went to a performing arts school that was not centered around music in any way. I was actually doing like technical arts throughout high school, and I applied to colleges for an architecture degree. I didn't go to college, as you can probably imagine. I'm now doing music because I started taking a gap year to focus on music, which I had started doing in high school, and now I'm here making music full time and making content for people. But I just never saw this as a possibility, and I think that the internet has made it incredibly possible for so many different people to kickstart their own worlds online and being able to share that with people. And it's so powerful because it completely turned, I think, entertainment on its head. Like, anybody can share their story, anybody can put content out online. It's not a gate kept process anymore, and that's really crazy. It just put everything on its head, but it's so cool because it's just like removing the barriers, I think, that have been put in place for a very, very long time.
Yeah, for sure. And in speaking about, you doing music and you stepping out on that path, I'm definitely going to be asking you about that later on too, after the performance. But who are some of your early musical influences?
My early musical influences. So I actually didn't grow up in a house that listened to indie music at all, which is now where I find myself. And
Ooh, interesting.
I listened to funk and I listened to classical. And those are the two things that I think I was surrounded by constantly. And I can't even remember, the artists I remember listening to, a lot of R&B and rap actually. So I listened to Salt and Peppa was a huge artist in my household, super good. I listened to oh geez, I would have to look. I have a playlist of all of them, Cool in the Gang, Earth, Wind and Fire. Those are the songs of my childhood and the artists that totally defined it. So my musical inspirations, I don't even think I had them for a very long time because the only way I knew how to write music was from my 7th grade ukulele curriculum, where I learned 4 whole chords and I was required to write a song for the class, and the way that I spoke. And so a lot of my music is I think the reason it feels so personal is because I just didn't know how else to write it. I didn't listen to other people that could influence the way that I was writing and the way that I was making music, because my reference was listening to September by Earth, Wind and Fire, and then also Yo-Yo Ma at my grandparents' house. Both of those things are just totally wonderful, but not related to the things that I make now. So I think it was just all through gut.
That's really cool. How do you think that your process has changed then over time? Because you talked about how when you started out, you were making music and you're just you're talking, you have those 4 chords, but now obviously you're dropping projects, you have all of these different things going on. So how has that process changed for you over time?
I think I've gained inspirations over the course of making music, and people like Rex Orange County as a huge indie influence, or Maggie Rogers and Mitski, and all these different people in the indie scene. And listening to their music and kind of broadening my perspective of what music can sound like inside of, the possibilities of my own art that I'm creating. I think the biggest change is really just being able to collaborate with more individuals, because I started this whole thing when I was 16, really, online, and I didn't know anybody in the music industry. Both of my parents are teachers. They weren't going to know anybody inside the music industry. And so as I've gotten deeper into my career over the course of the last few years, I think the biggest thing has just been connecting with other creatives and being able to sit in rooms with them and hear their perspectives and their ideas and collaborating with them, and trying to expand upon my 4-chord ukulele knowledge that I have established for myself. Yeah.
Well, listen, you've definitely expanded it a bunch, because look at you now. But I'm going to let you go ahead and, play a few songs. And then once you're done, you'll come on back and we'll chat a little bit more, and then you'll finish up your set. But thanks so much for joining the stream again. Thanks,
Tia. Sweet. Awesome. So if you're just joining the stream, if you don't know who I am, my name is Mxmtoon, or Maya. I am a musician. To my surprise, I never expected this to happen. But I'm really excited to sing a few songs for you today. I I've been making music since 2017. I've been playing music my whole life, but just not singing, and it turned into my job, which is really, really cool. And so I'm very excited to be here today and to sing you some of my songs. This first one is called Bon Iver, named after a little artist you might have heard of before called Bon Iver. Speaking of inspirations, he's one of the biggest ones for me. And this song was from my last EP that I just released called Dusk. And it's written about being able to find joy in the darker moments of life, which I think I wrote it before this whole pandemic happened, but ended up being very appropriate because I think that one thing that we can do as we remind ourselves, and we're, around the year mark now, is that you can still find joy despite the darkness of whatever you're going through. You can still find solace in the quiet areas of your life, and sometimes there's a lot of beauty in that. I was really proud of that song when I made it. I worked with this guy named Gabe Simon, who's a really, really talented producer and co-writer. I don't even know, I guess, I'm just here to tell stories behind why I made these songs in the first place. And I also wrote it with Amy Wadge, who helps write The Shape of You with Ed Sheeran. So I think working on this song was like a crazy experience for somebody who was coming from, writing songs in her bedroom by herself with no other person around. I would write them in the middle of the night and I would record them on GarageBand on my laptop in my bedroom. My parents didn't even know I was making music. To all of a sudden, 2 years later, finding myself in Nashville writing with these very critically acclaimed, super talented people, and sitting next to somebody who would casually mention Ed in a conversation about something he did, and I was just like, which Ed? And then she'd mention John, and I'd be like, which John? And then figure out it's John Legend. So for me, as this tiny little kid coming from Oakland, California, working on Bon Iver was not only a really cool experience, I think, because I made a song I was really proud of, it was also just this wild experience, I think, that really solidified in my mind that I'm doing this as my job now, and I'm in a community of people that are passionate about what they do and make, and I get to be a part of that too. So that was really, really cool. This other song you probably know if you were on TikTok at all in the summer of 2019. It surfaces every prom season. It's called Prom Dress. I wrote it when I was 17 years old, and I had just eaten a huge amount of In-N-Out, like a double animal style, a milkshake, animal style fries, probably a couple bites from my mom's food, and I decided it would be a really good idea if I tried on my prom dress, which I had just gotten and I was very excited about. Long story short, I did not fit it at that moment in time, and it made me really sad. And I started thinking about, I was crying in my prom dress. My mom had to come talk to me and calm me down. But eventually, after I came out of that, I think I started writing a song about how the idea of crying in your prom dress is just really funny to me. And I thought it was a really ironic image that this idea, this event in high school that is so hyped up, prom, just ended up being something that brought me a lot of anxiety and didn't make me feel very good about myself. And so I wrote Prom Dress, and it went gold last year, I think, which is really, really cool and very, very wild. Okay. So I have one more song before we continue to talk with Tia. It's called Fever Dream. This was, I think, the first song I was ever proud of. Now that sounds really sad because I've been playing music for a while and releasing it, but I made a lot of music by myself, and it was just me and my ukulele in my room, like I mentioned. And as somebody who never saw herself going into a profession with music, I had a lot of doubts about my ability to make things that felt like they could fit in the larger context of the music industry. Um, because you don't really see people with a ukulele and voice necessarily blowing up all the time online, and being successful off the basis of just making things that were acoustic. Although I think it's really wonderful when it happens. And so I made Fever Dream in August of 2019. It was the second ever time I had worked in a session, and sessions are when you work with other artists and different collaborators. I worked with Luke Nikolai and Micah Premnath, both really talented people that I've continued to work with to this day. And Fever Dream is a song actually about my experience going into the music industry and the idea of taking chances on things and taking a leap of faith into something that you love, even if it's terrifying. So it's about that, and I I edited the visualizer official audio of it on YouTube with a bunch of clips from when I was a little kid doing like my dance recitals and trying to remind people that, life is not meaningful because you do big things. It's about the accumulation of the small moments and how those make up your entire experience.
I have so many more questions for you now, too. I want to hear a lot about your process. Mainly, well, first off, someone in the chat, a lot of people were asking what kind of ukulele you have. So if you could just answer that one just for the fans.
So I know it's really confusing because it looks like I'm either the world's tiniest person or this is the largest ukulele known to mankind, but it's a baritone ukulele. And the special part about it is that it's tuned like a guitar, actually. The first 4 strings are the tuning of the top 4 strings in a guitar. So you can play guitar chords on it, but you can also capo it on the 5th and play it like a regular ukulele. So I use it for everything. It's my favorite instrument.
Because I had another question, actually. You talked about you've been playing the ukulele for a while. First of all, what made you start, but what made you pick the ukulele to play? And talk about just that whole starting out for you playing the ukulele.
I was forced to, actually, by my school when I was 12 years old.
Hey, listen, it worked out.
I know, exactly. I'm still in touch with my music teacher that started that curriculum, and I've given him so many thanks over the years, just being like, I would not have my job if you didn't tell me as a 12-year-old to play this instrument. But I learned it for middle school, part of the music curriculum that was designed for my school, and I really liked it. Coming from a classical background, I was forced to play cello and violin growing up, and as much as I love classical music and I love listening to it, it's very rigid and it's very strict in the way that it's presented to you. There are a lot of rules. And with the ukulele, I think the reason I really liked it and I kept playing it was because you could pick it up if you knew 4 chords. That's all you need to know, and you can play so many songs with that, and you can write so much music with that. And I think it felt a lot more accessible than what I had known previously, which was just classical cello music.
Wow, I love that. And I mean, listen, like I said, it really worked out for you now because
yes,
look where you ended up going with it. So I love that. It's better than playing the recorder or something in school because you can actually make songs
I also
with
did
it,
that at one point in time.
But no one's playing the recorder now, so it's better with the ukulele. But in terms of, writing your songs and writing music, do you play with your chords first, play around with that, or do you have lyrics written and then you kind of play along with it, or what is your process there when you're starting out?
I actually tend to do a mixture of both. I usually kind of have this ongoing bullet journal of just a bunch of different chord progressions that I really like. I can sometimes sort them by the moods that I feel like I associate with them, whether they're more minor and they sound kind of sad, or if they're really upbeat and poppy. So from there, I also have another list that I keep of just different ideas and topics that I think I really am ruminating on and thinking about in my own personal life and wanting to make those into pieces of work within music. So kind of taking both of those things and smashing them together and slowly figuring out which ones kind of pair up with which one. So I think that's my creative process. Yeah.
No, that makes sense. And when you talked about Fever Dream actually being the song that you're most proud of, I have a lot of questions, especially about the video too. But what was the writing process for Fever Dream specifically?
It was so unbelievably fast. And I think I found that with a lot of the music that has done really well for me are the songs that just come naturally. And it sounds like such a frustrating thing, I think, for people who want to get into music, because you're like, wow, can you create something in that matter amount of minutes? And sometimes it just comes to you. I have a lot of music that's taken me months in order to write, my song Prom Dress. It took me a year to finalize that song. And then Fever Dream took me an hour to write with the 2 people I was working on it with. And so that song was really just born out of having a conversation with 2 other individuals and them listening to me telling my story about being, a kid trying to navigate going to LA for the first time to do music industry business and doing all these things that were really new to me and being scared but being excited at the same time. So, they just asked me, how I felt about the whole thing, and soon enough we came up with this really pretty guitar riff and we looped it and we just sat inside of this room and started writing lyrics, and it came together really fast and really naturally, and we finished the song after the course of 4 whole hours with the whole production and everything, and we were just it's perfect, it's good as it is, and you don't need to touch it. But it depends on song to song.
I love that. I love how organic that process was for you. Well, then you talked about...
I wish it was all like that.
Well, we talked about Prom Dress taking a year. What was that process like then? What was that year like for you?
Prom Dress went through like 4 different iterations before we actually landed on the final one that is now in the world. And so I wrote it when I was 17. And so that was the first time that I made it. And I recorded like a demo on my own inside of my bedroom. All I had was my guitar and my voice. I also like wasn't as fine-tuned with my singing at that point. So I listened back onto that and I'm like, oof, a little bit rough there. Eventually you'll get it, but right then you weren't there. And I took it to a family friend who had access to a studio, and we worked on the first version of it, which is now the demo version that's up on DSPs for people to listen to if they want. And it's like a very long version of it. And then from there, taking it back to an acoustic to kind of be like, okay, let's reassess this and see what sort of production we want on top of it. So at that point, you're at 3 iterations. And then eventually coming in contact with this other artist, Cavetown, or Robin Skinner, who ended up producing it remotely from the UK and putting his own spin on it and everything. And so it took a long time to kind of get to the finalized version. And the lyrics were also being fine-tuned. And I was taking out things or adding it back in throughout the whole entire process. But it took like a year and a half, probably close to a year and a half, to get like the final version that now everybody knows and has gone popular on places like TikTok. So it just depends. Yeah.
Wow. That's a really cool story. And it's interesting to me the whole process and all of the different, ways that it passed through different people until we found the final version. But I also noticed that a lot of your instrumentals, especially what's on YouTube, like the instrumental is very simple, but there's a lot of layered vocals. And I think that's really interesting. So what's your process putting that together? Do you use any vocal effects on those layers? Any reverb or delay possibly?
Love a good reverb. Big fan of a reverb. If somebody told me that I had too much, I probably would stop. But if there's nobody there to be like, hey, maybe you don't want to sound like you're like singing into a bathroom constantly, I probably wouldn't be able to rein it back. I just love reverb. So that's really the only vocal effect that I use. If I'm working with producers, I kind of let them do their own thing with it. But most of the time I don't even know what those things are. But if I'm working on vocals on my own, I'm cutting them by myself. I really just kind of hear the different layers. I was in an a cappella group in high school, and I think that prepared me really well for working on a lot of my own vocal stuff inside of my music, just because I listened like for very long amounts of hours, listened to teenage girls sing and like do a bunch of oohs and ahs and contributed to that even in my own voice. So it's just a process, and you don't need anything fancy. You can make something really cool when you have a looping system and some really simple digital audio software.
Yeah. Well, kind of going off of that, I feel like what's interesting is you've talked about playing ukulele in school. You've talked about being in an a cappella group. How have you evolved musically as a person? Because you've done a lot of different music programs and everything that have kind of culminated into this,
How have I evolved musically as a person? I think honestly, practice makes perfect. Like you learn by doing. And so by putting yourself into situations that you might be nervous about and unsure about your own ability to like do those things, I think sessions was one of those things for me that was terrifying. And to think about, to being able to like be vulnerable with another creative individual where I'm like very, self-deprecating about my own humor of just being like, I know ukulele like from the YouTube sphere. Like I don't actually know anything more beyond that. But you bring your own special thing that's unique to the table. You don't need to be good at something in order to learn how to do it. Like, you just have to put in the work and the hard, be persistent, I think is the biggest thing. And so my own musical evolution, I wouldn't say I'm like miles better at the ukulele now that I've been playing it for 3 years. I just kind of am more comfortable with messing up. And so I'm more willing to take risks. And I think that's kind of just the gist of everything.
No, that's great. I think the gist of most of the stories that you've told has been about how your confidence has grown a lot as an artist. Do you think that affects the lyrics that you're writing and the types of music that you're making differently?
Yeah, I'm willing to try a lot of other stuff. Like I think my music now, there's a lot of similarities to the first stuff that I was making, but for a very long time I was nervous to drift away from doing the vocal and the ukulele thing because I knew my audience liked that, and I was worried that if I tried something else, even if it felt more creatively fulfilling to me, what if my audience didn't like that? And what if they wouldn't want to listen to my music anymore? And now I kind of just approach it from this angle of being like, if I'm not having fun, that's just going to come across regardless, and people aren't going to want to listen to that. And so I should just push myself to keep making things that feel exciting. And I don't know. I think it's more worthwhile to be daring with your creative decisions and being able to just kind of keep challenging yourself because it gives you more opportunity to play in the future. Like, I think if you pigeonhole yourself into one thing, if that's your goal, totally go for it. If it makes you happy, go for it. But for me, I think it's just been helpful as somebody who started making music because of the way that she was limited by her own tool set, to be able to now just kind of keep trying different things because I have access to a bunch of different opportunities, is really cool because it leaves the door open for me in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And, in going back to Fever Dream, I saw that in the description you had written that Fever Dream was your first official dance music video. So can you
Yes.
talk about, the choreography behind that? Who else was in the video with you? And just what was it like putting that video together?
So I had this video, if you haven't seen it, is a dance music video that's done in essentially one shot. And it's me and a little girl, her name was Hayden, and then an older woman named Paula. And they are both supposed to represent my younger version of myself and my older version of myself. So like the past, present, and the future. And Fever Dream is about the past, present, and the future, and trying to find beauty in the moments of reflecting on the past and being thankful for what it's given to you, being okay with the present and looking forward to the future. And so this music video, it was really exciting to me because when I made Fever Dream, I think one of the reasons I was so excited about it was because it made me want to dance. And a lot of my music, you can dance to it, like you could slow dance to it, but Fever Dream made you want to move. And I just remember being really excited about the opportunity of doing a dance music video to it as somebody who also had a dance background in high school. I've done way too many things in my lifetime already.
Try to hide that one, downplaying it, but look at that.
Yeah.
Very artsy. Yeah, what was the process? What is your process just in general when it comes to making music videos? Do you have a vision going into it? Is it kind of like you write the song and then you think of the video? Are you writing around the Prom Dress music video? I also really, really liked. That was really fun, in the school and everything, and it makes sense with the lyrics. But what's your creative process there and your vision?
So I love film, and I spend a lot of time like editing my own videos, and with music videos specifically, I co-direct a lot of them. So I actually create whole storyboards, and kind of they're like mini graphic novels the way that I storyboard them, and I color them in, and I create these shots, and I have really specific directions for how I imagine them to look in the videos. But I spend a lot of time working with the film crews that I create these videos with, and just having a conversation about what the specific creative vision is, because I think whenever I write songs, I usually have a very intense understanding of what I want them to look like visually. And so Fever Dream was one of those things. I knew that it needed to be orange. Like, for some reason, when I listened to it, I was like, okay, this has an orange colorscape. So when we're making things around it, let's make sure that it resonates with that feeling and the happiness and the glow and the warmth of what I feel when I listen to this. And with the music video and even in the dancing, making sure that that video felt free-flowing and it didn't feel like it was overly produced to the extent that you're like watching a dance crew do their movements. Like, this is just somebody who, and somebody being me, but like any person who listens to this song, this is them dancing in their bedroom, and like trying to create those moments where the feelings that I think are evoked when I write my music and amongst other people who listen to it are really encapsulated in the videos that I'm creating.
I love that. I like that. I think I like that the vibe across both your lyrics and your music and also your videos is very relatable, very accessible, but also you can see how you've grown as an artist over time, and changed and evolved. So I really like that. But listen, I'm going to let you get back to playing. Right. I have plenty more questions, and I'm sure the chat has other questions too, so feel free to drop them in, but please take it away.
Let's do it. Let's do this. I have another song for you. It's called Almost Home. It's from my EP Dawn, which is also where Fever Dream is from. And I really like this song. I feel like it's a really good representation of like me as a person, and I carry a lot of nostalgia from my experiences. Obviously, I'm a chatty Cathy. I could talk about things all day long. And Almost Home is no exception to that. It's a song about this memory that I have really vividly of falling asleep in the back of the car after I was done with soccer practice as a little kid, and being so tired you just kind of pass out and you have a nap in the back of the car as your parents are driving you home, and watching like the trees outside. And I think that we probably all, to a certain extent, have different nostalgic memories that we associate with just like good feelings and warmth, and hopefully this song will evoke that with So I have one more song for you. It's not my song. It's by this little band you might have heard of called Radiohead. It's called Creep, and I know that this might seem like the most redundant cover known to mankind, but I promise you it has a cool story behind it. So last week I got to announce this very exciting news that I would be a part of the new Life is Strange game that's coming out later this year. Life is Strange: True Colors. I love video games. I'm like a huge proponent of gaming. And Life is Strange is one of the games I played in 2019 for the first time. And it's a story based game with multiple choice, basically, and you can kind of choose your own adventure. But this game is really cool, Life is Strange: True Colors specifically, because it stars this character named Alex Chen, and she is Asian American, and she's bi, and I am also Asian American and bi. And so when I was asked to come on board and be the singing voice for this character, it was really exciting for me. This is my first time working on a video game, and doing it with a project that I think means so much to so many different people is really, really exciting. And really, really cool. Like, I was really excited to play this game, and I cannot believe that I get to be a part of it. So that's awesome. Yeah, they wanted me to cover Creep for it. So I just released my own version of it, that cover online if you want to go check that out. It's a little bit different than me just singing it acoustic, but it's still pretty good. So if you want to check that out, you can for sure.
Before you head out, I also just want to say we love the kitchen in the
Thank
background.
you.
Everyone in the chat loves it. I love it. Just everything about this. I was also going to ask you about promo for Life is Strange. What is it like for you being involved in the gaming space in that capacity? What's it been like to work on that project? Because that is really exciting. And it's especially exciting, you know, hearing you talk about it before you played the song too, and how the character is so relatable and some great representation, just like you were talking about earlier.
Yeah. It's so cool. Like, I really can't wrap my brain around the fact that I get to be involved in this. And like, for my first project that I'm working on inside of the gaming space to be something as iconic as Life is Strange is so neat. Like, I don't really have the words for it. Like, I grew up playing video games, and I think, you know, just being so in love with the gaming space and seeing things like indie games and playing everything and everything that like could come up to me and I could do. So it's really, really cool. I don't even know if I have the full words to explain it, and I think I'll probably be just at a loss for words when the game actually comes out and I'm like playing it for the first time. But it's incredible. Yeah.
That's so fun. I mean, I feel like, you know, we talked about this a lot, but what's it like for you going from being an independent creator, just kind of in your room, just making things, doing whatever, to having all of these new releases, all of these projects that you're working on, all of these different things coming out? You know, are there different spaces that you're looking to work in? Is there something that you never expected that you'd be able to do that you've finally done? Like, what are you really, really excited about and proud to have done?
I mean, I think I'm just proud of myself for continuing to do any of this. Like, it was never really my dream to be somebody online, like with a massive audience, although it's really cool and I feel really thankful for it. Um, I think it's just at times it's felt so overwhelming because I've really only been doing this for 3 years, and to have so many people watching me and paying attention is a daunting task to be presented with when you're somebody who never really thought that that was a possibility for you. Um, so I'm really proud of myself for just continuing to do it. And it brings me a lot of joy and a lot of fulfillment. And to be able to build community with people across the world and make art that feels like it's a part of their lives and gets to be the soundtrack for them is really, really cool. And when it comes to future projects, like, I would be open to doing anything. Like, I love the fact that video games are now something that I've added to my like repertoire, and I would love to keep working on more stuff like that. I think my ultimate, like, one of my dreams is also to hopefully be involved in some sort of animated show. That would be really, really cool. Like, doing something along those lines. Mm-hmm.
That would be really cool. I was reading your New York Times interview also, and in talking about, you know, you have a huge platform. It is obviously a lot to get adjusted to. But what I really admired is you were talking about taking a week on and a week off. I mean, granted, this interview was a while ago, so I'm sure you have a lot going on now. But you talked about balancing your schedule and how that's important for you because things have changed. It is a lot. Can you talk about how you handle doing that and how you get things done and what advice you would give to someone else who's looking to create and move into this space?
Oh gosh. It is always okay to say no. I think one thing as somebody who's been a young person and being inside of the music industry, to prove myself, I have oftentimes felt like I've needed to say yes to every single thing, to take on every single opportunity that's been presented to me. And I think that there is so much importance in challenging yourself, but never at the sake and putting aside your own mental well-being. Always say no. Like, it's okay to do it. So don't be a yes man for the sake of trying to prove yourself to anybody. You can just make sure that you are taking care of yourself first and foremost. It is not a selfish thing to take time for yourself. And I think that's a lesson that I repeat constantly, but I'm still admittedly learning myself. And if you're going to be putting yourself into any space where you're having people watch you and pay attention to you, make sure you take moments for yourself. I think that's the biggest piece of advice.
That is some really, really great advice. That's some really good advice. Everybody listen to Maya. So as we wrap up, I do want to know who is on your playlist. We talked about this before with your early musical influences, but who are you listening to right now? Who you really love? If you could, feel free to pull it out. You can pull it up if you need to look for
I'm pulling on my Spotify. I'm looking.
Yeah,
admittedly.
just take a second. I can never remember off the top of my head, so I get it.
Okay, so I just created this playlist yesterday called Dance or You're Fired, and it's my jams playlist.
Ooh.
So I have to let me look over this. On here I've got let's see, Electric Guest is sprinkled in here a little bit. Love some Electric Guest. Chloe Lilac is one of my own friends. I really love her EP that she has, and I think she's releasing new music recently. Oh gosh, there's a bunch here. Coast Modern is one of my favorite bands. I really like their music. I'm also, I'm not proud of this, but I've been listening to the Glee soundtrack a lot lately.
I honestly, there are some songs on there, like the Glee version of Physical, and I think the Safety Dance, the Glee version. Some of them are just really
dance. Yes. Oh my God, it's so good.
I just can't even listen to the regular version anymore because the Glee one just, I don't know, just sat with me when it first came out, and now so do not be ashamed. This is a safe space.
Okay, good.
Oh my goodness. But on that same note, do you have any plans to collaborate with other people in terms of features or being in anyone else's songs or things like that in the future?
I would definitely love to. There's a couple things on the horizon that I've been working on, and I've just released a bunch of features earlier this year as well, and collaborations. But I'm really open to anything. I think as somebody who, my favorite part about what I do is community building. I love working with other people. And so I'm open for anything that comes my way, and just always happy to make cool art with cool people.
I love that. And someone in the chat had asked if you have any other Asian American musicians that we should listen to or check out.
Mitski. I don't think that anybody has encapsulated the mixed race Asian American experience better than her. She is incredible. I have gotten to be in a room with her and pick her brain about her creative process, and she is as brilliant as people might think she is. Yes.
Love that. Amazing. And, as we kind of wrap up, I'm so glad we could have you on the stream, and the chat really, really enjoyed having you and dropped in a few questions as well. But do you have, what do you have coming up that we should look forward to? Is there anything you want to plug? I know everyone came from your Discord, but what else do you have going on, and what are you looking forward to working on most?
Well, you can join my Discord, discord.gg/Mxmtoon if you want to be a part of the community. But I think the biggest thing right now is I just announced the Life is Strange project. So that's really exciting. And I'm just making content online. I think I'm going to just try and keep making videos. I do streams on my own channel over on Twitch at Mxmtoon if you want to follow along Saturday or Fridays and Sundays. But I'm just kind of anywhere and everywhere on the internet, just doing my little internet thing. So if you want to join me anywhere, you can do that.
I love that so much. Well, chat, you heard her. If you haven't joined already, please go ahead and do so. Maya, thank you so much for joining on the stream. This was amazing. We are so happy that we had you on. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a pleasure.